On that day, an unusual ship left the port of Newark. At first glance, it looked like a completely ordinary oil tanker. Nothing special. An aging hull, dock workers on the pier, cranes in the harbor. But on its deck stood metal boxes, 58 shipping containers. The Voyage looked ordinary, yet it would change global trade forever. To understand why, we need to go back a little. In the middle of the 20th century, ports worked very differently. Cargo was transported in sacks, crates, barrels, and boxes. Every single item had to be moved by hand. Workers unloaded trucks, carried cargo to warehouses, then loaded it again onto ships. The entire process took enormous amounts of time. Loading a single ship could take several days, sometimes even weeks. Long lines of trucks waited at the port. Cargo was damaged, lost, and sometimes simply stolen. Global trade was slow, expensive, and inefficient. One of the people who saw this problem every day was Malcolm McLean. He began his career as a simple truck driver in North Carolina. In the 1930s, he bought his first truck and drove it himself. He transported cotton, tobacco, and other goods between cities and ports. Over time, his small business began to grow. More trucks appeared, more drivers joined the company. Eventually, McLean built a large trucking company. But at the ports, his trucks constantly had to wait. Drivers sometimes waited for hours, sometimes for entire days. Cargo had to be unloaded piece by piece from the trucks onto ships. It was slow, it was expensive, and it deeply frustrated McLean. One day, while watching cargo being unloaded at a port, he had a thought. What if the truck didn't need to be unloaded at all? What if the entire truck body could simply be lifted by a crane and placed directly onto a ship? The idea was incredibly simple, but it had the potential to transform global transportation. To test the idea, McLean bought an old World War II tanker. The ship was sent into dry dock and heavily modified. A special platform was built on the deck. It allowed large metal containers to be secured on the ship. Cargo could now be transported as a single unit. The first container ship was born. The old tanker received a new name, Ideal X. In the spring of 1956, loading began in the port of Newark. Cranes lifted containers and placed them on the deck. Workers secured them with metal locks. In total, 58 containers were loaded. Then Ideal X began its first voyage. The route followed the eastern coast of the United States. The ship sailed around the southern tip of Florida and crossed the Gulf of Mexico toward Houston. A few days later, the ship arrived. The containers were unloaded far more quickly than traditional cargo. The experiment had worked. Shipping costs dropped dramatically. The container system proved to be incredibly efficient, and very soon it began spreading across the world. Ports started to transform. New terminals were built. New container ships appeared. Global trade routes connected entire continents. Today, containers carry the majority of the world's trade. Millions of containers cross the oceans every year. They transport food, clothing, electronics, and countless other goods. In many ways, the modern global economy depends on this system. But it all began with a single voyage, an old tanker, and 58 containers on its deck, a ship that changed the world. Which topic should we explore next? Hidden history? Engineering mysteries? Wars and secret operations? Or space and major technologies? Write your choice in the comments. This is the What, Where, and Why channel. And if you enjoyed documentaries like this, subscribe to the channel.